Hello, everybody. This is Aaron from the Ballpit here, and I'm going to react to a new PragerU. I think that's how you pronounce it. I've been saying PragerU forever. It better be PragerU. I'm going to look like an idiot. A new PragerU video called "A Moral Case for Capitalism." Now, before we get started, I think it's important for me to introduce the biases that I play with to you guys as viewers before I even get started. Bias is something that we all play with. We all have our biases. And as much as I can sit here and try to say that I'm going to do my best to evaluate this video without bias, it's more than likely impossible. So I'm going to introduce them to you just so you know what I'm working with. And I'm going to do my best to think of it completely logically without my biases. But these things can happen. So typically, I'm not the biggest fan of PragerU. I would define myself as being more on the left than a traditional conservative, economic conservative, libertarian conservative, whatever brand of conservatism you would like to specify. I typically find myself more on the left. So that usually has me colliding, I guess, against PragerU. However, I do think that in this specific video, in a moral case for capitalism, I think there could be some agreements. We'll figure it out. We'll see what happens. But I just wanted to introduce that before we get into the video because I don't want to make it seem like, yeah, I'm going to approach this totally logical and then let my biases talk for me. And everybody's like, well, you're letting your biases talk for you. I just want to introduce it first so you know that this is a field we play with.
Maybe capitalism is efficient.
Okay.
Maybe it generates more wealth than other systems.
Okay.
But what about values? What about things that can't be measured in cash? Things like kindness and loyalty and integrity.
I actually really like the way he's introducing this right now. He's going, because obviously the biggest argument from conservative economists that support capitalism is it makes money, it makes wealth, etc., etc. Boom. I like that we're approaching it on a different side, because typically a lot of leftists' biggest argument against capitalism is typically the morality of it. So I think it's an interesting way to pursue it, and it's more so arguing within the confines of a leftist argument, which is the moral case, which if you believe that you're correct on a moral level or on a political level or whatever else, you should be able to properly argue your case in a variety of different scenarios, if that makes sense. So I like this. I'm actually, I'm glad that they've made this video. Well, we'll see. We'll see moving forward if I continue to believe that. But
well, let me say something.
Daniel Hannan, author of Inventing Freedom: How the English-Speaking Peoples Made the Modern World. Never read the book, obviously. Never read it. Don't love the title, but you know what they say, you can't judge a book by its cover. So maybe at the end I'll do a quick lookup, because I'm not going to buy the book and read it before this video comes out, because that'll take way too long. But,
Well, let me say something that
part of me wonders why this guy specifically is introducing this, because it seems like his book is about culture. But I guess maybe he's going to assume that capitalism and through the Industrial Revolution and stuff was mainly brought about by English-speaking individuals and the West, if you will. So maybe that's what the book's about. I don't really know. You know what? Let me do my due diligence. And let me look it up. Inventing Freedom: How the English-speaking peoples made the modern world. British politician Daniel Hannan's Inventing Freedom is an ambitious account of the historical origin and spread of the principles that have made America great, and their role in creating a sphere of economic and political liberty that is crucial as it is imperiled. According to Hannan, the ideas and institutions we consider essential to maintaining and preserving our freedoms, individual rights, private property, the rule of law, and the institutions of representative government are the legacy of a very specific tradition that was born in England and that we Americans, along with other former British colonies, inherited. What about India? Would you say that India inherited that as well? I guess that wasn't... that was a British colony. Let's not beat around the bush here. By the 10th century, England was a nation-state whose people were already starting to define themselves with reference to inherited common law rights. The story of liberty is the story of how that model triumphed. How it was enshrined in a series of landmark victories, the Magna Carta, the English Civil War, the Glorious Revolution, the U.S. Constitution, how it came to defeat every international rival. Huh. Interesting. But wasn't the whole point of the American Revolution about the English infringing on their liberties by taxing them without them actually having representation in government? So, I don't know, that seems a bit off there. Today we see those ideas abandoned and scorned in the places where they once went unchallenged. Inventing freedom is a chronicle of the success of Anglosphere, so like Anglo-Saxons, Anglosphere exceptionalism. Sorry. I have a cough drop in. I'm sick currently. And it's offered at a time that may turn out to be the end of the age of political freedom. What a great synopsis or whatever of the book from HarperCollins Publishers. It was a great synopsis. It really makes you go, well, now I want to read it. It really does. And you know what? If I like this at the end, I'll buy the book. Straight up, I'll buy it.
You won't hear very often.
Okay.
Let me make the moral case for capitalism.
All right, let's hear it.
Let's go back nearly 12,000 years.
Okay.
To the moment when one of our ancestors made a world-changing discovery. It turned out that if you left seeds in fertile soil, plants would grow from them.
Okay, so we're starting this at the point in which, like, agriculture was discovered in humanity. Okay. All right, let's see.
Instead of having to forage, you could produce your own grains or fruits where you wanted.
Uh-huh.
It didn't take long for someone to make the next discovery. Rather than spending all year tending to your own crops, you could wait for your neighbor to bring in his harvest and then steal it.
Okay.
And then came the truly diabolical discovery. If you wanted to maximize the ratio of effort to outcome, you could organize a gang of thugs and seize not only your neighbor's harvest, but everyone's harvest.
Okay.
Regularizing your plunder through tithes, tolls, and taxes. And thus...
So I'm going to say I don't automatically agree with this. On a base level, looking at it, obviously what he said in the way that you can maximize effort to outcome by creating a gang that steals all the food, that's objectively correct, right? That is the easiest way for you to get the most by doing the least, right? But then when he says that they did that through, what did he say?
Regularizing your plunder through
tithes, tolls, and taxes. That's his description of mass theft of neighbors' food is through tithes, tolls, and taxes. And that is not always the case, especially in the modern time. I'm not going to sit here and say like tithes happen all the time in the modern age, but tolls and taxes, at least in the United States, those are common. I live in Pennsylvania. When I hop on I-76, Pennsylvania Turnpike, I got to pay money in tolls every time. And obviously, I'm a working adult, and so I have to pay taxes. Crazy, right? But those things aren't just... What's the best way to word this? The purpose of those things isn't derived from basic theft. The purpose of taxes and tolls is not because people want to just take your stuff and not do any effort. The purpose of tolls, at least road tolls, is supposed to be you're paying to upkeep the road and add on to it. And while the Pennsylvania Turnpike tolls, for example, are ridiculously fucking expensive, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like they're reasonable, right? Driving 30 minutes on the Turnpike costs you $3. Like, well, I don't know what we're doing here. But to be fair, it is the best highway to drive on in Pennsylvania. 81 sucks. 83 sucks. 30 sucks. All these roads suck. But the Turnpike is consistently the best one to drive on. Part of that is because maybe trucking companies don't want to pay for tolls, so a lot of the tractor trailers are off the highways. People in general don't want to pay for tolls, so there's less cars on there. But it's also the cleanest road that gives you I never have any problems with potholes, which for Pennsylvania is fucking wild, by the way. We have potholes. If you've ever driven in Pennsylvania, we have potholes everywhere. And as soon as you cross the state line to go anywhere else, the potholes are magically just gone. So there's that. But, I-76, our toll road, doesn't have them. It's the nicest highway by a massive landslide, and I believe part of that is from tolls. Can we survive by paying less? Fucking absolutely. And then taxes, you're actually, whenever you don't have a corrupt government like the United States does, your taxes are actually supposed to mean shit, right? Nowadays, taxes go to, fund the Museum of Pork Rinds in Missouri or some dumb shit, instead of going to actually pay for there not to be potholes in the roads and to pay for stuff like Social Security and healthcare and, stuff that, us as people can actually fucking benefit from. And largely as a society we can benefit from. But that doesn't usually... No, I'm not going to say it doesn't happen from taxes, because all of the government shit that we benefit from is paid for by taxes. But some of that tax money doesn't exactly go to the right place. Absolutely. So should there be maybe some more measures put on these things? Absolutely. But to describe them as abject theft doesn't really feel like it's in good faith to me as an argument.
And thus it continued until roughly the end of the 17th century and the birth of modern liberal capitalism. Sure, there were premonitions before then, little tremors of freedom, but almost everyone on the planet still lived in servitude and penury. Every previous society was based on systematized oppression. Ruling elites would use the institutions of the state to loot its resources and then rig the rules so that their children would inherit the same privileged position.
Of course. And here's something I actually want to point out, if you're still watching this point. So, I am a college graduate. I have an undergrad degree in psychology and sociology. I know. Some of you are going to be like, well, not the most effective degree. I get it. And you get your opinions out in the comment section if you want about how psychology and sociology are worthless degrees. But they've helped me land my current job that I have, where there's tons of upward mobility, contributes to my 401k, etc., etc. So I'm not too mad about it. But part of sociology is reading theory. It's like the biggest fucking part of sociology. You read so much theory. You base sociological theories that kind of stem from three pillars. So there's Weber is one of the pillars, Durkheim is one of the pillars, and then good old Karl Marx is one of the pillars. So I've had to read some Marxist theory, right? This guy talking about how the world used to be run economically in a change for capitalism, word for word, bar for bar, exactly what Marx says. Marx actually describes capitalism as very positive because it's better than what came before, which is basically slavery and feudalism. He's like, this is objectively better. Capitalism is objectively better than what came before it. The difference, and where people disagree with Marx, is he says that I think we can still do better. He said capitalism is good and has been great change from what it used to be, but he didn't think that was the end point. He thought there was something better. And that's where a lot of the disagreements come from. But I've noticed that a lot of conservatives talk about Marx without having read Marx. And, again, that's like what I said in the beginning of this video. I think that's a lot of time your bias is coming to speak for you. There's a lot of opinions on Marx and socialism and communism, etc., etc. I'm not going to go into them right now because this video is already too long and we're 1 minute and 43 fucking seconds into the reaction. But I just want to say that maybe you should try reading Marx. You should, I'm a leftist, but I'm watching this conservative video right now. You should try to engage in the information and the text that your political opponents engage in, because at bare minimum, best case scenario for you in your current political position, now you have better information, you're better suited to defend against arguments made from those sources, and maybe you can actually agree or change your mind or something. There's no bad outcomes to engaging in more information gathering in a variety of information. There's no bad outcome. But this guy has said bar for bar what Marx said. Straight up.
The Bronze Age slave empire was not so different in this sense from a medieval European monarchy or a 20th century African kleptocracy, Or, come to that, from those modern states that have avoided the liberal capitalist revolution.
So that is Kim Jong-un that was
Oppression,
pictured there without a face.
And bondage were the lot of almost every human being from the moment civilization began until an eye blink ago. We don't know how lucky we are. To
Okay.
live at a time and in a place.
So a big Marx disagreement to what has been said is he said that slavery or serfdom is different from, is not that different from a monarchy. It is. Your life as a peasant under a medieval monarchy is much better than before it. But compared to capitalism, obviously still not as good. But it is important to, because this guy's trying to frame it in such a way where it's like, everything fucking sucks. Capitalism happens. Everything's great. Right? And that's not truthful. It was, everything sucks. Oh, monarchy happened. Everything sucks a little less. Boom, capitalism happened. Things suck less still. That's a very pragmatic, I think, view of it. It's very negative, but at the same time, I feel like it is more truthful. Just looking at my study of economic history.
Where the rules are above the rulers. The great Victorian jurist, Sir Henry Maine, summarized the move to modern liberty in 3 words. Status to contract.
Okay.
In nearly every previous society, our relations with one another were dictated by status, that is, birth and caste. In a liberal capitalist society, we're free to make one-off freestanding arrangements with each other without needing to ask anyone else's permission.
Okay. You know what? That's fair. I thought he was going to say something different, but I agree with that, right? In our current society, we're free to make economic-based agreements without having to consult somebody for it. Well, except the IRS and certain institutes, because, you know, payments over a certain amount and transfers over a certain amount have to be monitored by taxes, whatever, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But it's true. You know, you don't have to consult a higher power, I guess, for that. You can just do it.
Our contracts are enforced by an independent court system.
Okay.
Adult citizens are equal in the eyes of the law. That's it. That's the magic formula.
Equal in eyes of the law is a generous way to describe it, I think. Because we know that's not true. We know that our legal system does have bias, as we all do. But I'm not going to harp too much on that point, because at the same time, while there is still bias, it is objectively a lot more equal. There's a lot more equality to it than there was in the previous economic systems that he described before. So, as much as I do disagree with the point, I'm not going to harp on it too much, because in the grander scheme of things, I agree with what's happening.
That's the magic formula. Status to contract.
Mm-hmm.
Grant it, and the rest follows. It's the difference between North Korea and South Korea, between China and Taiwan, between Russia and Finland, between Haiti and Bermuda. In a society defined by status, you get rich by sucking up to the people in charge.
Okay.
Emperors, or people's commissars, presidents for life. But in a society defined by contract, you get rich by offering a product or a service to the people around you.
That's not always true. I'm going to keep it a buck. That's not always true. A lot of times, I mean, they say all the time that networking and knowing people is what gives you success. In the United States, that networking is the most important thing you can do. It's by who you know, not what you know. So as much as you can succeed in this country still by what you know over who you know, there are people that very easily find success just based on who they know, which in this argument would be one that was based on this, a status-based economic system rather than a contract-based one. So, just throwing that out there.
As the 20th century economist Joseph Schumpeter put it,
Joseph
the
Schumpeter.
capitalist achievement does not typically consist in providing more silk stockings for queens, but in bringing them within the reach of factory girls.
I actually like that quote. I like that quote a lot. But you do have to wonder if, never mind, I'm not going to speak on it because I'm sure I'll get a chance to talk about it more later when there's more setup. So I'll go from that.
When I buy something
Good quote,
on
though.
Amazon, yes, I'm enriching Jeff Bezos. I'm adding fractionally to his net wealth. But he is also enriching me, letting me buy pretty much whatever I want without having to get out of my chair. No other economic system rests on voluntary exchange. Every other system requires coercion. And that is the moral case for capitalism. Not just that it makes us richer, though it does. Not just that it raises the...
But, so I have a question, right? I'm just going to throw this out there as a hypothetical. You said that capitalism is based on voluntary exchange, not coercion, right? Question. Does food cost money? Does drinkable water cost money? If you live in the woods or in the suburbs or wherever, does transportation to your job cost money? Does a roof over your head cost money? Does life-saving health care cost money? Do clothes needed to keep you warm in the wintertime and not get arrested for public nudity cost money? Yes, it does. It does. All those things cost money in the United States, right? You need those to survive. And you must get those through an exchange, a monetary exchange with somebody else. That is not voluntary. You do not have the option to do that or you fucking die. So in that case, that exchange is not voluntary and is coercive in some regard, which is why big pharma, big healthcare companies are able to screw you over because you have limited options to go for, right? You have limited options. So you are coerced into having to engage in a monetary exchange with one of those companies because you need it to fucking live. That is not voluntary. That is the definition of coercive. So capitalism, in some regards, if I'm going to go buy a fucking TV or a monitor, or computer monitor, or a camera, or a microphone, voluntary, because I don't fucking need those things to live. I choose to put my hard-earned currency, my money that I've earned from working, into it. The other things that I mentioned before, coercive. You don't have the choice.
Is the moral case for capitalism. Not just that it makes us richer, though it does. Not just that it raises the poorest on the planet, making our life outcomes more equal, though it does that too. No.
It does that, but not well. Not well. It's still, sociologist. It's still reported in studies that even under capitalist systems in a variety of countries, American, European, whatever else you want to go with, your ability to change your class level is very low. Typically, if you're born poor, you stay poor. If you're born rich, you stay rich. Of course, you can go in the comments and type up all the exceptions you want of celebrities who were born poor and are now rich, or, kids that were born rich and failed and lost all their parents' wealth and are now poor. You can bring up all the examples you want. Sociology is not based on individual examples. It is based on widespread numbers. It is based on the total population. It's based on big groups of people. And largely, when looking at big groups of people, your wealth doesn't change. The class level you were born in is typically the class level you stay in.
The moral argument for capitalism is that it's the only economic system that values dignity and freedom and, yes, equality. It disdains distinctions of race and creed. One customer...
I don't know if I agree with that. I don't know if I agree that it's equal, because... So think about it like this, right? We live in a world where inflation is fucking out of control, right? We all know this. We can all objectively agree that inflation is crazy, right? Prices of everything are fucking soaring. You can't even get a McChicken for $1 anymore. The world's in crisis, right? The world's in crisis. In that setting, Some people can afford shit that other people can't. And you can make the argument that, they worked hard to get their money, right? But what about people that are born rich? Their parents have wealth and give them money, and they're not working as hard. Because I know a lot of people who are poor that work really fucking hard. Work really hard. But the situations they were born in prevent them from just being able to stack up wealth, right? And there's a lot of people I know who were born with some wealth. Maybe they weren't born in the upper middle class, that kind of thing. That have never worked a day in their life. They went from high school, never had a job, college, never had a job, and they're just sitting in college now, spend at these rich private institutions, cost fucking $60,000 a goddamn semester. I went to a state school, right? I went to a state school because I did not want to spend $60,000 for a fucking liberal arts education, right? But they're able to buy shit that I can't. That I can't. Somebody who's graduated college and is working. I work full time. They can buy stuff I can't because their parents will pay for it. And I don't have that. Right? So saying that it's based on freedom and equality isn't exactly right. Especially with the freedom part. Like when you start taking into account fucking healthcare bills and shit that can just pop up out of nowhere that you have to pay for that's ridiculously expensive. You don't have freedom. You have to work or you fucking die. You have to work or you die. And sometimes you can keep working and you're still going to fucking die because these healthcare bills are fucking crazy. I had to get an ambulance ride for some other shit, like in December. That shit was $1,000. Here's the situation, right? I needed a fucking ambulance ride. They call for the ambulance. It takes them 30 fucking minutes to get there. Right? And then they drive me to the hospital. I didn't fucking need anything in the ambulance. They just made sure I wasn't actively dying, which Lord knows I could have died in the 30 minutes it took them to get there. The fucking ambulance place is a couple minutes down the road from where it happened. So they don't do anything other than give me a ride there. I could have fucking drove myself at that point. $1,000. Are you fucking kidding me? Lose my damn mind. I have good insurance. I have good insurance.
Money is as good as the next. As Voltaire put it in 1764, enter the London Stock Exchange and you will see representatives from all nations gathered together for the good of mankind.
Gathered together for the good of mankind is a crazy sentiment to say about stocks, right? That's not true. That's not true. Whenever fucking Nancy Pelosi or whatever gains $3 million based on stock exchange, she's not doing that shit for the good of mankind.
Here, Jew, Muslim, and Christian deal with each other as if all were of the same faith, and the only people called infidels are those who go bankrupt. Under capitalism, we need to think of what other people want, of what we can do for them. It's how we get ahead. Whereas socialism replaces our natural human relations with state control.
No.
Capitalism draws us into productive networks of mutual. See,
and this is where I get a problem. Why you gotta bring socialism into it? I fucking hate this shit, bro. But please, anybody in the comment section, I'm begging you, please link me a video of a conservative who reads Marx, who reads it, and then talks about it. For the love of God. Oh my God. Fucking Marx doesn't want state control. It's the fucking opposite. A commune isn't state control. Oh my Lord, I'm gonna lose my fucking mind, bro. Oh.
Dependency. We become more attentive, more empathetic, and thus more aware of the case.
More empathetic is... I don't like that. When you look at these... I'm going to bring healthcare back into it, because that's the one that really fucking pisses me off. When you look at these companies that make, like, fuck it, the price of insulin and life-saving medicine, thousands of dollars, when they just to increase their profit margins, that's not fucking empathetic, right? It's just not. You have to be more attentive, but more attentive to how you can fuck people over. It's the problem, man. That's the problem with capitalism, is the lack of a non-biased third-party control. Because the government, you can't rely on them to fucking keep the markets in check. Because like I mentioned before, Nancy Pelosi gaining millions of dollars a fucking year based off of her insider trading, allegedly. Stock tradings, they're in the fucking pocket of these companies. The politicians are in their pockets. So you can't trust the government to regulate the markets to make it so there's not 4 fucking healthcare companies that run everything and set the prices through the fucking roof because they know you have to pay for it. It's coercive because you have to do it to live. That's the problem with capitalism. That is the modern problem of capitalism we're dealing with right now. There was no way to regulate it, and as soon as that happens, the fucking rich people band together and they go, hey, let's fuck everybody over. More empathetic, my cock, bro.
Case for universal human rights. Capitalism doesn't just make us better off, it makes us better people. I'm Daniel Hannan, author of Inventing Freedom, How the English-Speaking Peoples Made the Modern World, for Prager University. Thank you for watching this video. To keep PragerU
I will not be purchasing your book. You fucked it in the end. I was honestly down to purchase it right until that end there. Just fucking pissed me off, man. Alright. You guys can let me know in the comments. Shut up. You guys can let me know in the comments if I let my biases speak for me. Call me out. You know what I'm saying? We'll see what happens. And please, can somebody link me a fucking video of a conservative who's actually read Marx? I just want it so badly. I just need it. I need it. That's it. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Link me some more videos you want me to watch from conservatives, from leftists, from fucking liberals, whatever else, man. Link me some videos to watch, man. I'll sit here and give my opinion on it for 8 years over the amount of time that the actual video is, because, you know, that's what I do. I'm not somebody who wants to, I'm going to go off on a tangent here at the end, but I'm not somebody who wants to just sit there and let somebody else's video play and then just post it on my channel and be like, look, reaction. No. You come here for a reaction, I'm going to give you my thoughts. I'm going to give you my opinions. And I hope you guys enjoy that. Because I always hated when I would watch reaction videos and they'd barely speak. I'm like, dude, if I wanted to watch the original video, I'd just go fucking do that, right? I came here for your opinion, for this person's opinion. I wanted to know what somebody else thought about it. So I fucking hated it when they didn't speak enough. So I speak too much to compensate. All right, that's it. I'm done talking. Thank you all for stopping by.